Okay, so I'm going to start my thread about 2 eyes back, and I'm going to wrap all the way back to the hook barb using the tag of the thread to guide my wraps as touching wraps down the hook shank. Once I get to the hook barb, I can hang and see that I'm directly proportioned where I need to be before the bend starts down. So now I'm going to take and build my tails. So an Adams is made up of the grizzly and the brown hackles, and the best way that I've learned to do this is take the two hackles, set them side by side, as you can see, shiny side to flat side, doesn't matter, cup to cup. But what does matter is the length of the barbules, and I want them the same length. So I'm going to reach in here and take about a thumb's worth, peel it off, pop it off, and now I'm going to kind of pinch them together, just like that, and hand stack them somewhat. And because I peeled them off the stem, I've got to cut these little connection points that came with it. Thus now I can kind of roll them in my fingers, pull out a couple of the long guys, and now I have them. So my tails being a parachute, I want them to be the length of my shank, just like that. So I'm going to measure from where the hook bend of the eye starts to where my thread's hanging. And I'm going to go ahead and pinch, put them on my side. And I'm going to give 1 to 2 wraps and let it hang. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull the barbules to the top of the hook, just like that on my third wrap. So let's go back and measure. Pretty close. So I've got them mixed up in color, which is what I'm looking for. Now I'm just going to go ahead and wrap all the way forward. And notice also that I did not wrap my thread under the tail yet. So now I'm going to make my post, and I'm going to make it from a turkey flat or T-base, whatever you want to call it. And what I'm looking for in this feather is the squareness across the top. And I'm looking at these very fine, minute sections on the top of the feather. You can get them by accident if you buy feathers without checking them. This area that's open will come all the way down in here, and your feather really won't give you the post that you're looking for. So I'm going to look, and I'm going to make my post about the hook gap. So I'm going to reach in with my thumb, dead center of the stem, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Pull it out, remove anything that wasn't connected. So everything here is connected to the stem. And that's what I'm looking for right now. Transfer it, and you can see my T. I'm going to go ahead and I can transfer it without it all falling apart because it's connected to the stem. Notice how even it is. You can cut it if you don't, but I don't recommend it. What happens when you cut it is you get further down the length of the barbules and they get fatter. And so you don't get this wispy parachute wing. So I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to measure about the gap. And then I'm just going to a gap and a half at the most, or a gap and a fourth. Usually what I would measure dry fly hackle at a gap and a half. And I'm going to leave my thread hang. Like I said, I'm 2 eyes back, and I'm going to pinch. Very important, pinch, drop straight down, come up, pinch, drop straight down again. And now I'm retaining my thread right where I wanted it. My parachute is on top of the hook shank. So now, since it's a parachute Adams, again, I'm going to take my hackle. As you can see, I've already taken both hackles, put them together, and the barbules, most important, are sized to the hook, right at the hook gap, not 1.5 down below, but right about the hook gap on a parachute. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take and peel barbules off. Notice at the end, just like that. And I'm going to give myself plenty of stem. The reason for that is instead of me tying it in on the stem like this, I'm going to hold it here. And I'm going to let my feathers hang forward, and I'm going to tie it in like this. Very gently, I'm going to shorten my thread up. And I'm going to very gently go right where I was at on my stem. 1, my parachute is right there on top. My stem is alongside. 2, using my handle. Okay, now it comes up onto the side 3. Everything is staying right there on the top of the hook shank. So now what I'm going to do is I've got my hackle, and I'm going to pull the hackle till I get the naked stem where I want it above my tie-in point right here. And that's what I like, and that's usually about to the hook eye itself. I'm going to go ahead and wrap a few more, lock it all in, and I'm going to come right underneath and cut everything away. Now, because I'm tying a dry fly, I want a tapered, nice, carrot-shaped body. I don't want no ledges or anything like that. So I'm going to cut at a slant, just like that. And then I'm going to come in on this side, and I'm going to cut at a slant. Okay? And then if I got anything that goes back a little too far, I just go ahead and nip it. But I've got everything cut at a slant, as you can see. And now as I wrap this back, as I'm wrapping back, I'm going to go ahead and tie it in, and it's creating a nice, even body. Just like this. And I'm going to wrap right on back to my tail. Okay, once I get there, now then, this is where I'm going to zip underneath my tail, just like that, and I'm going to pull it. And then I'm going to come forward with my wraps again, a couple of them, not touching. But the reason I'm doing that is because I want the thread tension to be pulling in this direction underneath the tail. What I have found is when you wrap back and tie your tail in, throw a couple underneath and then tie right back here and stay here and then start your dubbing, things have a tendency to do this down the hook shank. So in order to keep your tail from sliding down the hook shank, you come around and you wrap forward and then come back again, and it won't allow the tension of the thread to release itself and slide down. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a little dubbing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dub this body, and I'm going to make it nice and thin. Notice my my noodle for my dubbing is almost the same diameter as my thread. I am just trying to add color. My body is already shaped by the thread. I have naked thread here, and I'm going to wrap right back down to where the tail is tied in. And again, staying right above that hook barb, because I don't want to drag that tail down my hook shank. And now I make contact with my material, and I go ahead and keep wrapping, just like that, creating a nice body. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little more on. It's easier to put it on than it is to take it off. And thus, I think I have enough. We'll find out. And keep it nice and tight. If you get it loose like that, pull it back off and tighten it up. Don't just say good enough. You want to be able to look in your fly box and go, man, I like that fly, and I want to fish it. Okay? So now I get all the way up here, and if you notice, my body's kind of getting tapered, and I'm going to wrap back just a little and make sure I get a better taper, more predominant. And now I come around, and now my thread is at the base of my parachute and my hackle hanging on the opposite side of my hook shank. So now what I can do is because of the way I tied my feathers in, I can actually pull on them and not have an issue. So I'm going to turn this in my rotary just a little bit here. And so I'm on this side, and I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to come under just like this. Watch. I'm going to come under, and I'm going to go straight to the hook eye. And I'm going to start wrapping backwards on the hook shank to the post base. This is giving me a nice jam knot coming out again, going back to the bottom of my post. As you can see now how it's standing up. It doesn't take much to do that, but I'm using the base thread here behind the eye to create a foundation to push against that post. If I don't, and I go straight to the base of that post, I have to put in more wraps here to hold this post up, because it's just going to keep sliding down the hook shank. But by coming to the eye on the hook shank and then wrapping back to the post, gives me something to push off of. And so my threads and that'll stay where it needs to be. And I don't have to overload the thread dam to keep that post to stand up. So again, it's there. Now I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to counter spin it a little more than normal, because I'm going to make a post and I don't want to really pull on it. So if you notice, my thread goes backwards and I can pull up right here and wrap right around, down and around. And I'm pulling on my thread. I'm going to show you how because of the way it's tied in, I can literally pull it all around and set everything up. And now to do what I call a locking wrap, I come around the hook shank and back again. And thus, anything that I do now, and when we all tie parachutes, they slip off at times. If it slips off, it'll only slip off to my last locking wrap. So I won't lose my entire post if something should go wrong. Now, the way I tie, and you may not see this, I'm going to turn it sideways so that I can see my post. And I'm just going to wrap and hold my feathers. And I'm going to pull my feathers to guide my wrap. And I'm going to wrap up that post. Just like that, and I'm going to wrap right back down again. And then I'm going to put a locking wrap in, and right there in front. And now everything is locked in. The post is up. My feathers are up. The reason I dubbed my body before I did my post is because I've seen guys, and I've done it myself, make a post and it's so nice looking, and then when I come back and dub my body, I dubbed up to the top of the post and I have no post when I go to start wrapping my hackle. So now I have that already done, and I know that if I want to put so many wraps on, then I need to make my post the size that I want, but I know where the base is at, due to my dubbing is already there. Up again, back down, and I don't know how many times you want to see that, but there you go. And I'll go ahead and do one more of these so you can see. I'm going to come right to the eye and then wrap back, and I'm going to go right to the bottom of that post. Now, everybody does things color-wise a little differently. I like to take a little bit of my beaver dubbing in dark green, not black. And now I'm going to go ahead and dub me up a thorax. And again, I'm going to make my thorax dubbing on my thread the size of my thread. I am not going to make some huge noodle. We are tying dry flies, not big old nymphs. So I need to be able to control my material at all times. So now I'm going to go ahead and X-wrap and come around the back side of that post, come around the front side of my post, just like that. And you can see how it's starting to actually create a little bit of a bump coming up that post that would have taken up too much space on the post, where it wouldn't allow me to get a proper wrap of hackle. So now I'm creating it, and again, and I don't know, but if you can, notice that a mistake that a lot of guys will make is they'll leave an X space underneath there making a thorax, but mine's all the same color by the way I'm wrapping it around with my dubbing. So now I've created that. So I'm going to stop with my thread on the back side for me, the hook, camera side to you. And that's going to allow me to wrap my hackle around just like this. And now it's going to start making the hackle barb stick out, and because of the way I tied it in, it's pretty stout. Now remember, you're wrapping 2 hackles at a time. So for every wrap, you're putting 2 hackles on. So 3 wraps is 6 hackles around that post. So there I am. I've got the amount of hackles I want. That's what, 2 wraps, 3 wraps. And now I'm going to pick it up on the back side, come around on top of that hook shank and touch my eye. I'm going to pull down on my hackle, and I'm going to reach around here, and I'm going to touch the body, come down, come underneath, touch the eye, come around, touch the body. And I'm going to make this several wraps, and I'm not capturing any of the barbules. I'm going to try and turn this if you can see, and it's going to come right around like this. And then I'm going to end with my thread back on that side where I started, and I'm going to reach up and gently cut the stems. This is kind of got to be careful, because if you just insert your scissors a wee bit too far, you will cut some of your barbules and defeat the purpose of doing what we just did. So I'm going to trim that stem a little more, just like that. And right now you can see how the hackles are parallel to the body, and they're not below the body, and they're not out past the body over the tail. That's the proper size hackle you're looking for. And again, if you were to do this with a 1.5 gap size, your hackle would be out past the body and it would be hanging over the tail. And if you were to, when I put the two hackles together, I put them doll side to doll side on here. So I had doll side to doll side. They were cupped, and they were cupped like this. So when I wrapped them, they did this. Okay, if you do them this way, then you're going to wind up with hackles shiny side to shiny side, and you're going to have hackles all drooping down around your body. Some guys may like that. I personally don't. We all tie the flies the same as we want. Everybody knows how to tie a parachute. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the whip finish, and I'm going to touch my body, touch the eye, and I'm going to do it just like I did the tying in the hackles. Give myself plenty of thread to work with, come right underneath, and I'm going to go ahead, drop down below, drop over the eye, and go ahead. So there, I've created that. Do that 3 or 4 times, and this is done. I like it. Reach in very carefully. And if you got a crazy hackle or two, which I don't know why I have it, but yeah, I can't handle it. So if you can see, my whip finishes here. It's created a small post base to support the hackle above the body. And that's exactly the way I like it. We have a nice thorax of different color. We have a tapered Adam's body. The tail is flailed out. It will not slide down. Very durable fly. Now, the T-base are the AK best technique. I like it because, as you can see, it's wispy looking. It doesn't hold water. It's very light. When I cast, and my fly has a better tendency to float. Now, that's the way I install the head cement, because I allow capillary action to go ahead and suck it right down the post and into that hackle. So once this thing dries, it's going to be well bound up. So again, that's the way I tie the parachute Adams, and of the fly tires at a long table. I was asked, how do I dress this fly? Don't put anything on the body. Don't put anything on the tail. Only dress the post and this hackle right here with a little bit of your silicone gel. And you want to allow the parachute body and tail to sit in the water. Remember that this tail is not like your Catskill pattern where it's supporting a mechanical support of the fly's body to sit above the water. It is nothing more than a profile. I hate seeing parachutes with a huge bushy type tail. I like the wispy, as you can see, kind of see through it. It's giving the image of a mayfly tail of some nature. Thank you, and it's the fly tires at a long table, the way we tie parachutes.